Let's also bring in one of our guys, John Foley, who's joining us to recap all the excitement. John, another win for the Phillies. They become the first team across the league to 30 wins on the season. I don't know if we would have predicted this at the start of the year. We definitely predicted and wanted a hot start for the Phillies. But let's take this moment to just reflect, guys. This is the hot start. First team in the league, again, to 30 wins. I don't know how much of a better start you can get. Well, of course, to be undefeated, than to be the best team in the league as of this mark of mid-May.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, we're used to starts 4-10, 11-16. Could they get out of the gates a little hotter this year? And man, they sure have. I mean, one team in the history of the Phillies franchise, dating back to 1883 or whatever, with a better start than this. Nobody else in baseball this year has 30 wins like the Phillies do. And they just keep getting it done. And I put it in the article the game recap yesterday. They can beat you with pitching, like Aaron Nola and his shutout today. They can beat you with hitting when folks get healthy. They can, bang out 10 runs. And then there's some games like yesterday's game where nothing seems to go right and they just win anyway, because they're just, it feels like that winning is contagious. And I can't remember the last time I've woken up every morning just expecting the Philadelphia Phillies to win a baseball game. It's incredible.
Yeah, John, my daughter Skylar, I usually now watch a couple innings with her before putting her down to bed, and I'm letting her stay up kind of later and later and being a real bad dad. But I love it because she comes in the morning, and even if they're down, she goes, "Did the Phillies win?" And more often than not, I think they're 9-1 in one-run games after last night. Like last night was a morning today where I was expecting to go, no, Phillies lost a tough one. What can you do? But instead, just like these weird things happen, like Alec Boehm getting hit with the bases loaded. What's been like the most impressive to you? Is it the rotation, the bullpen, or the offense? Because I guess rotation is the obvious one, but I really think this bullpen is something special too.
I think you got to go Jason Kelce. Is the whole team. Is everybody. It's the rotation has been lights out. The bullpen, except for a couple of bad innings here and there that have really threw their numbers out of whack. Most times the bullpen comes in, they're having tremendous success. And the lineup, I mean, they're a little banged up right now. No Harper, no Real Muto, and they still find ways to scratch across runs, even if it takes Alec Boehm getting hit for the second straight day with the bases loaded, which is pretty amazing.
Odds of that,
it's incredible.
It's incredible, and it's on brand for how this season has been. It's been so far where a lot of little things are going right for the Phillies. And let's be honest, it starts by setting yourself up to have the bases loaded in general, to be able to draw walks. We've talked so much about the Phillies needing the ability to play small ball. We've seen bunting. We've talked about them being able to attack pitchers and force them deep in the pitch count. They're doing that. They're getting after them. Jose Buto pulled, unable to go. Unable to
Am
go.
I right?
Oh, there it is.
Ass. That's right. I'm a serious person.
I'm a serious person. But the Phillies are continuing to do the little things right. And even with injuries, Bryson Stott, 3 RBIs and a home run between yesterday and today. Fantastic at bats. It's incredible to see how this team is grinding things out. So I love the fact that as we even talk, like, what stands out? What do we enjoy the most? I just enjoy the fact that it's not always pretty, but they're playing like a team, and they're playing. Cody Clemens, whoever it is stepping up to the plate and delivering when needed and when called upon.
Yeah, any sort of magical season like this that you can remember, that's always the recipe, right? Different guys stepping up on different nights, players picking each other up. Certain guys. One problem we've had in the past few years is that everybody would seem to get cold or hot at the same time. This seems to be different. To the extent anyone is slumping, like Castellanos early, well, then Alec Boehm's playing like an MVP candidate. And if that's not sustainable, he comes a little bit back down to earth. Now you've got Bryson Stott lighting the world on fire. The pitching has been great throughout. I know you all mentioned the 2011 team. It is still kind of weird to think about this year's group in those terms, because as of 2011, the starters in that rotation were already legends that were just sort of collected and just assembled like the Avengers. But this is a little bit more, they're surpassing those numbers through a not insignificant part of the season thus far. So sooner or later, the conversation is going to get started. I know it's like blasphemous in certain ways to compare any rotation to 2011, but as these numbers pile up, yeah, I think it might be time to start that conversation.
No, it's going to feel less weird pretty soon. Now, the other weird thing about today, John, is how many teams do you think around Major League Baseball could play all 4 infielders out of position and win handedly? Because nobody played their natural position today once Bryce left. I don't know why they did what they did. I'm sure Rob will have an answer for it. But that is kind of the mark of a great team.
Yeah, and they didn't just stumble into it. It's something they valued in the offseason. And as they've constructed this roster, they just value that versatility. Guys like Sosa, guys like Whit Merrifield, Bone can play third or first.
Can play catcher and second? Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cody Clemens is the emergency catcher. They did this intentionally. They know it's a long season. They know it's a grind, and it's one thing to have depth at specific positions, but you only have so many bench spots. So to find these players that can play sort of all over the place, it really adds a lot of value to your team when you have a day like today when a couple guys are banged up and around the lineup.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things. I mean, this offseason, I remember like it was yesterday, us talking about, and it was even mentioned in the chat, re-signing Aaron Nola, get that done, check. And now we see him throwing complete game shutouts, talking about adding utility pieces and some depth and some guys around the edges. You bring in a Whit Merrifield, you get Cody Clemens, who's got another year under his belt and is playing really well. Check. Johan Rojas, the concern about him as an everyday center fielder, and even the discussion around Christian Pache. Check. You're getting home runs. You're getting good at bats. All the things that we've had concerns about, knock on wood, the Phillies have been completely showing. Even versatility. I remember that being an area we discussed down the stretch, especially in the NLCS. The Phillies struggled, but they didn't have any answer, any way to tweak things to, accommodate, whether it's because of injuries or bad at bats or the bats going cold. Check, check, check. We've been seeing that as well. So this group right now, and it's only mid-May, I think it's not flashy, which is why it probably feels surprising. But when you really take a step back, they're doing so many things so quickly that it's coming together and to be a really great group. But overall, just love the fact that you see Cody Clemens and these young guys, even with injuries, the confidence that's coming from this. You think about these last 2 games for Bryson Stott, Cody Clemens, Yoro. The confidence that this is building for them is going to help in major ways as this season progresses.
Absolutely. It's a great point, Renee. Like everything we talked about all season long, like how many shows was there discussion about will Rojas be able to hit? Yep, sure can. Will the bullpen be able to handle? Are there enough arms in the bullpen? Can you replace those, before he fell off, those 60-some quality innings, high leverage situations that Kimbrel gave last year's team? Yep, check. Ryan Kirkering's been incredible. It's just it's a rare thing for things to just sort of work out in basically every aspect of the roster the way they've worked out this season, and that's how you get to be the first team to 30 wins in baseball, and one of the best in history.
And now, as we talk about winning, I do want to make a comment as we're taking this moment, I feel like, to also reflect on our preseason conversations, because as you guys are saying in the chat, Jackie Moon, K-Red, Ray, Spiral Out, Hypothetical Man, Greg, a win is a win.
Everyone love everyone.
Everybody's happy. Everybody's in love because we're all happy and we're winning. The Phillies are on pace for 113 wins. I was not on the show the day that you guys predicted how many wins you thought the Phillies were going to get this season. But I remember a certain guy. No, I wasn't.
John said 100 wins. A certain guy,
and John, I'm looking at you.
She's throwing bouquets
this is your moment
way.
Because not only did you predict a sweep against the Giants, but you also, bigger picture, more importantly, predicted the Phillies to win 5 games?
I would like to say I said 105. I think I went with 100 as a bold prediction.
You did.
And what that was based on was the fact that they had already played like a 100-win team from the time Harper got healthy throughout. I think I've seen a couple folks on Twitter throwing up stats that if you look over the most recent 162 game span, they won like 102, 103, something along those lines. So, you see those Vegas over unders, and I'm sure they're climbing now, but early on it was like 88, and that just did not seem right. So I mean, I don't think they're going to. It would be, incredible if they could stay on this pace and win like 110 plus. I don't know if we're going to see that happen. Every team, even the best teams, this 1976 team, that's still ahead in victories through this many games, or the 93 team that they're tied with right now. They're rough patches in all those seasons, and there's going to be points where we sort of freak out. We haven't even had to deal with a 3-game losing streak yet. We've dealt with, I think, two game losing streaks. So at some point they're going to lose 3, maybe more in a row, and we're all going to panic. And we just have to remember that it's a long season, and over 162 they're really going to be okay. And I think that 100 win mark is very much in play. There's nothing about what the Phillies are doing right now that's unsustainable. I don't see. They've caught some luck, some breaks. Yeah, sure. But there's no reason why they can't keep winning.
So the only thing to that point, John, that can prevent it, I think, is injuries.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're cool or if you're like me and panicked a little bit. If your MLB angle showed this, but NBC Sports Philly had it locally. JT Realmuto warming up prior to the game, out there getting down in the catcher's stance, and he was shifting his legs, and like a pretty big wince came out of him. He said this is a knee thing that's popped up in the past. It's been around them for several years. He said usually 2 to 3 days rest kind of gets it normal again. But when I saw him wince just getting down in the catcher's stance, I did kind of go, shit, that doesn't look good.
Yeah, that wince was a little scary.
Yeah.
So we'll see what comes out of it. What's interesting is that yesterday, Rod Thompson said that they weren't even doing a formal examination of the knee. Like, it was just kind of banged up, and they were going to give him some rest. And they had dealt with it before. So I don't know if that's going to change, and if they're going to take a look at maybe what's going on there. But yeah, that would be a huge blow to the lineup. I mean, for all the versatility they do have, Garrett Stubbs is really the only one that can play catcher. And yeah, I mean, everybody loves Garrett Stubbs, but I also think nobody wants to see him out there every day. So that's something to watch. Yeah, injuries are always the wild card, right? Thankfully, Schwarber seems to be okay after a little bit of an back issue he's dealing with. Trey Turner obviously is already down. But that'll be a great boost when he comes back. I think we still got at least five-ish weeks until he returns. But it's just they've got that next guy up mentality, and they've got enough stars on this team that you can lose somebody like Turner and maybe even Realmuto for a little bit and still have plenty of bats in there that scare opposing pitchers.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, we see Garrett Stubbs gets the 3rd start today in a row ever. That's the first time ever in his career that we've really seen that happen. And it's concerning because that is the one position that there is no depth. And I know we've talked about it in the chat. It's being mentioned by Jim G of needing a much better backup catcher. Garrett Stubbs is the vibes guy. He's great for team chemistry. He's great if you need him here and there. But we saw him get his first start with Zach Wheeler on Sunday. We saw him get his first start with Aaron Nola today. And it's concerning because knee injuries, on top of the fact that JT is aging, you now have a 33-year-old JT who has played 130 plus games the last few seasons. Aside from 2020, which obviously everybody played lower, he's played on average around 130 to 140 games. He's logged a lot of minutes, and he's a great catcher, and he's such a big piece of this team. So that is a little bit concerning, especially because you just don't have another option. Every other position, there are options there except for JT. There's no replacing what JT brings to this team as of now. So lots to be happy about, but that part is a little bit like, okay, this is concerning. This is a little bit nerve-wracking. So, John, obviously you'll get a chance to be up here, though, the next couple of days now the Phillies will return home for the second part of this home and home series, and you'll get all the updates live and in person for us, which will be exciting to have you there at the ballpark and to get to learn more about what's going on. So excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait to get back to the ballpark, get back to the studio, and hopefully the Phillies just keep it rolling and stay healthy. Fingers crossed on JT. But no matter what, I think they're gonna keep this thing together.
Yeah. And Baseball Reference just followed our show account, which is kind of cool. And they just tweeted us back, actually, about Aaron Nola's stats.
Oh.
So Baseball Reference just told us here at _Phillies on Twitter that Aaron Nola, with his third career shutout, is now tied for the most among all pitchers since 2021. Just below him is Ranger Suarez with 2. But Aaron Nola now ties Framber Valdez, Garrett Cole, and Max Fried for the most complete game shutouts in baseball since 2021. John, that's pretty good company to be in, I believe.
That's pretty good company to be in. And it also shows you what a different game it is today compared to those. That's another thing. If we want to start making 2011 comparisons, we got to remember that, Roy Halladay was out there going, 8, 9 innings all the time. But it's incredible. Nola is he's what in today's game is considered a horse. To see Ranger right behind him is awesome. But I do think there's a strange, maybe Baseball Reference can help us out on this too. I think there's a strange stat that if you go back, like since 2000, Roy Halladay still leads the league in complete game shutouts, just because nobody's ever going to catch him the way the game's set up now. But really impressive by Nola today. You love to see it, especially Zach Wheeler doesn't have his best game. Aaron Nola comes out and pitches like the ace of the rotation, or it could be Suarez tomorrow, or Harper's migraine issues are resolved and he could hit 3 home runs. There's just so many different ways that they can beat you, and that's what was missing these past few years with Phillies baseball. That they had to be hot, they had to be hitting home runs, and they would all go cold at the same time. The defense was subpar. The pitching wasn't as deep as it is right now. All of those things, all of the concerns we had about the 2022, 2023 teams that had to squeak into the playoffs, you don't have them right now about this 2024 group.
Yeah, they're going to kick in the door. And by the way, Matt Gelb just tweeted that Bryce and JT are both going to play tomorrow. So luckily, some good news there on JT. Hopefully it was just like an old man wince and not a, I wince when I put my socks on anymore. So
yeah.
Hopefully it was just that, not something serious with the knee.
Yeah.
But good.
That's fantastic news. That's fantastic news from my friend Matt Gelb.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely got nervous, especially hearing a headache, a migraine after we saw, but also after we saw Bryce get hit yesterday early in the game.
Not related to
I know, but like naturally, especially as a soccer player, like my first thought goes to, oh no, is this a concussion? Is it something more? Because sometimes those symptoms will show up later. So great to hear that Bryce Harper would have been available today if needed and should be available tomorrow. I know also in the chat it was asked about Rafael Marchand. He is also on the IL 10 currently for the Phillies. So, there's the catcher role there's some issues there. That is an area that the Phillies are thin.
It's the reason why they draft like 6 every year now, because it's a really hard position.
Yeah.
I mean, like Bryce came up as a catcher. Cody Clemens played some catcher. It's a weird position.
Kyle Schwarber was a catcher at one point.
Who?
Kyle Schwarber was a catcher at one
came
point.
Up as a catcher, yeah. So it's just a weird thing.
I remember in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft, it was just catcher after catcher after catcher.
Oh, God, that's all they're taking.
The Phillies were loading up on. So, we might have to start taking trips back down on the farm and take a look at how some of these guys are playing.
So it sounds like it seems that way. But John, we appreciate you so much as always, carving out time to jump on and talk with us. I know you've got a nice few fun days ahead of you that you'll be able to, again, be down at the ballpark. As we wrap up here, my last question for you, I just want to get your last thoughts. Since we haven't had a chance to get your perspective on between yesterday's game and today's game, and actually even the weekend. Bigger picture, if there's anything else, key takeaways, especially since you've been around the team so closely, so much, going all the way back to whether it was winter meetings, spring training, and obviously as the season progressed. Anything else that you've noticed that you're really excited about or even nervous about with the Phillies at this point at their 30-win point of the season?
Overall, 30 wins. I mean, the only things you can be nervous about are irrational, or just
Yeah.
can't be controlled. You worry about injuries. You worry about people are playing so well. So are they using up all their magic now, and not going to make that late October push? I don't think those are legitimate concerns. I mean, I think it's going to be a really fun summer. I think there's no reason that the success is unsustainable. And I think you've got a team full of professionals who've come really, really, really close, as fans all know, to that ultimate prize. And I think they're on a mission to get it. And I think they're going to be neck and neck with the Braves all season.